we reach 10 and it makes a difference, then that's what it's all about. So I'm glad you resonate with that. That means a lot.
I do resonate with that. And that's another reason I want people to, really go for what they want in life, because when they're happier, the ripple effect of that is unending. It goes much.
All right, welcome in to Vision Pros Live with Jackson Callum. I'm your show host. We will be doing interviews for visionary entrepreneurs and guest leaders who are building fantastic visions out there. Ultimately, I just want to go through some of the things that might help you with your vision. So if you have a vision that you're pursuing, drop a link in the comments and let us know what that is. If that's a business or a brand, if it's a nonprofit that you run, be happy to promote it, be happy to talk to you about it. And if you'd like to apply to be on Vision Pros and be interviewed about that vision, then by all means, feel free to reach out. Woohoo! Welcome in to Vision Pros Live. I'm your host, Jackson Callum, founder and CEO of First Class Business. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Epiphany and Converge, their sister company with Rick Meekin's fantastic business consultants for businesses with 30 plus employees, and ablehealth.us. Dr. Seth Yates has done an awesome job of building a program that allows people to access the benefits of a naturopath without having to go into a physical office. Which is pretty awesome from, in my humble opinion, if you will. Now, without further ado, I have an excellent guest who's super loving. If you're a nurturer, if you are in a midlife crisis, or you're looking ahead at what midlife could look like, then it's going to be awesome to hear what Cindy has to say. Cindy Whitmer is going to be on here with me in just a minute. I want to give a quick shout out, though, to the Water Project as well. If you have $1 to give away, or you have $1,000 to give away today to people who need water, I highly recommend the Water Project, because it's probably not fun. It's probably scary to go without clean filtered drinking water and to not know where you're going to get, the next water you need to take a bath, to wash your hands, to provide for your family. And they do a really good job of tracking and showing you, okay, here's where your money went, and here's how they're using that, and here's what they're doing to empower those local communities to create sustainable water for their needs. And since we don't have to deal with that on a daily basis, I try to constantly remember that there are many people in the world who don't have access to the luxuries and even the necessities that we do. So please give back. Water Project's a great way to do it, or find your own way to give back. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to bring Cindy Whitmer on board. And while I talk to her, I'm also going to pull some aspects of her bio, and we'll be including that in the recap show notes as well. So Cindy, it is so great to have you here today. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you. It's great to see you, Jackson.
Likewise. So Cindy and I met about 2 months ago now. And in our conversation, it was just, to me, it was so evident how deep her EQ was, her emotional intelligence, and her ability to connect with a stranger, help me feel those warm, fuzzy feelings of like, wow, I'm in a safe place and I'm with somebody I really appreciate. And her website also showcased a lot of her professionality of her 30 years of professional experience in counseling, coaching, and personal development. And what really struck me too, I'm not going to lie, the authority and credibility aspect came in when I learned that she learned and certified with Jack Canfield and has been studying and working under him and his program and with people related to him as a long part of her journey. And he's done so much for this world. If you don't know who that is, that'll also be in the show notes. But Cindy, let's just talk about that for a little bit. Here he is, actually. Who's Jack Canfield? Why is he so important? And feel free to, good, bad, uglies, anything you want to share there, feel free to do so.
Well, I think what impresses me about Jack the most is that he walks his, he lives what he teaches. I mean, he's a true transformational coach because he lives what he teaches, and he spent his entire life, his adult life, helping people really step into their highest selves and create a life that's meaningful. And I could go on the rest of the day about this man, but he's really been a guiding light for me personally and professionally. And yeah, he's very wise. He's very he knows how to bring really inspirational concepts to a practical level and teach them well. And he's actually a teddy bear, but
Mhm.
don't tell him I said so.
I won't. I mean, we did me a favor.
Multi-million dollar, he sold 500 million books, suit and tie guy, but yet he's not. He's like this nice, warm, strumming on his guitar with his comfortable shirt on. And you know what I mean? He's just,
Let's put those books in perspective. That's only 500 million. Okay.
yeah, he's just a
That's
half a
just
billion. I
half.
mean, he's no big deal, really. I mean, he's only in every language on the earth and every
I may pull
country.
that testimonial up, please, one more time. Let's go right back to it. I want to see because you have a testimonial from Jack Canfield, and those aren't necessarily easy to come by. They're also not necessarily hard to come by, but I don't think he's willing to do that for just anybody. So Jaime's going to pull that up. We're going to take a quick read through that as well because I think it's very important for people to understand that when you're endorsed by somebody like Jack Canfield, you've worked your tail off to build amazing. So let's see if I can expand this on my screen. Ooh, first time I've done that. Cool. This compelling book. So he's talking about your book. Which book is Jack talking about?
He's talking about this one, The Midlife Makeover Method. Yeah, it came out last year. It became a best-selling book on Amazon. And yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Awesome. So the midlife makeover method
Yeah.
takes us on a journey to the trials and tribulations of midlife for the author and many other women who all learned how to change the trajectory of their lives using the midlife makeover method. Miss Whitmer offers a way out of the struggles to midlife into one that is joy-filled, meaningful, and leaves the reader looking forward to the future instead of dreading it. Oh, that is just awesome. So happy that he wrote that and put context around this for those who know, like, and trust Jack. So with that said, you may not be going through midlife yet. I'm not. I don't think I am, at least. And at the same time, I've learned some hard lessons along the way that taught me maybe it's wise to look over the hilltop. Maybe it's wise to pay attention to what's down my 10, 15, 20-year track path. So without further ado, beyond the fact that I'm saying, hey, younger folks, you should listen. Cindy, who should listen? Why should they be listening to you? And what are they going to get out of today's show, do you think?
Well, I mean, I hope anybody will listen that's interested in living a fully happy, healthy, successful life. But I tend to draw in women and in midlife who are having kind of a crisis, what we call a midlife crisis, and want something more and just don't know how to get there. And lucky for me, I have over all my professional training, but also my own work on myself, I've been able to turn my midlife despair into, I'm living my dream life, honestly, personally and professionally. I'm just super happy, very fulfilled, so blessed, so grateful. And I know what it takes. I know what it takes to get from A to B. And so if somebody wants to, if they have a different vision for their lives, or they know they need something different in life, please listen up, because we'll address some of the keys to making that transformation.
Thank you. So that leads me to a deep question. And feel free to go as deep or as lightly as you want to on this. What does that midlife despair look like? Do you mind sharing a little bit about yours and also what it looks like for others?
I don't mind. For me, it looked like, I mean, in my early 40s, I would say I'm 56 now, but in my early 40s, I'd been married for 20 some years and was raising a couple kids. And what I realized is I was living my husband's life. I was living my kids' lives. I was living the counseling center's life that I was running. I was running a nonprofit counseling center at the time. And I was living for the church, for the schools, for the scouts, for the volleyball team. I mean, I was saying yes to everything. I had this philosophy that if I could do something, I should do it. So I said yes to everything, like literally everything. And so I was draining myself dry, thinking I was doing all this powerful serving, which I'm not saying I wasn't, but I was also in this marriage where, I felt like I was living his life and not our life or my life in the context of the marriage. And I felt like I was starting to just disappear, just disappear in my own life. And so I was asking the questions, who am I? Like what do I want? Who am I? Like what am I really here for? What am I really supposed to do? Like on a spiritual level, I was asking these questions as well as on a practical level. And so I think for me and for many people, when they reach the 40s, the 50s, I mean, you can loosely define it at any age, but there comes a time when we've been through a couple decades of adulthood, and a lot of us have lived kind of the same routine, whether it's the same relationship or the same job, or we've been raising kids or whatever. And we go, wow, now either the marriage is kaput or you know, the job feels like a dead end, or the children have left the nest is empty, and people go, now what? Like, now what? Is this it? Is this all there is? Is all I have to look forward to, like aging, illness, and death? I have people say that to me like all the time and think their purpose is over too, like if they don't like their job anymore and if the kids are gone. And so it's a time of, I think that midlife despair is a time of feeling very disconnected from your own individuality and feeling lost as to how to get back in touch with that and really create a future that you look forward to instead of dread.
Wow. Okay. I love that. And it reminds me of one of my absolute favorite movies. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's called Crazy Stupid Love. You ever
Oh,
see that movie?
yeah, Steve Carell and Julianne Moore, and
Ryan
yeah,
Jocelyn.
that is
Yes.
so it. Yeah, that's a great example.
Well, it's so
Yes,
funny because you opened my mind to the reality that wait a second, in the movie they juxtaposition the two men with the exact opposite scenarios, and
yes,
how both of them are actually reaching a point of despair in their
yeah,
life, right? So here's one who's married, and his marriage falls apart, and what most people would describe as the worst of ways. And
right,
now he's trying to figure out, how do I get back into the world and be like, who am I? Well,
yeah,
where am I after this bowl
yeah,
cut? And have forgotten
mhm,
about myself.
yes,
And then there's Ryan Jocelyn on the other side, who's
right,
been Mr. Solo Show, Bachelor Pad,
right,
living the high life, for
right,
years, but he feels completely lost
yeah,
and stuck, and has almost no sense of security. I
mhm,
would say he doesn't have a base where he belongs.
mhm,
And so both of them are discovering the opposites worlds, but they do it in a comedic way where you almost don't even see,
yeah.
all the reality that exists there.
Yes, but
So
I
that's,
think that underlying theme, one of the underlying themes there is they're both lonely men
yeah.
who are disconnected from what really matters to them or how to get connected to what really matters to them, and they both find their way, and it's really interesting. It's a good awareness that I love that you brought that up as an example.
Yeah, it's a fun one. Everybody should definitely
Fun.
put that on their playlist. It's a fun one
Yes,
to
for
watch.
sure.
Awesome. So let's get in the hot seat for a second. 15 seconds. What's your
Okay,
vision?
15 seconds. My vision is a world where everyone really, creates their own definition of success and happiness that also uplifts everyone else.
I love that.
They live that out, you
So we
know?
shouldn't be living by somebody else's definition of success. What Grant
Mhm.
Cardone says, or what Oprah says is success. That's limited for her, correct? And for him, we should figure out our own definition of success. How do you do that?
Well, I think you really tap into what you're really drawn to, what really brings you joy, what experiences you have. You know, when you have those experiences that you leave those experiences going, wow, that felt so good. Or you're around people where you go, gosh, I want more of that. And then the opposite teaches us too, you know, what our vision is. Like if you get involved in an organization or you work at a certain place or whatever, you're hanging out with people and you think, gosh, I feel like I'm like this alien in this bunch, or I'm not really aligned with what's going on here. This is helping you clarify your vision, right? Because we want to follow our emotional guidance system, that inner self we all have, that tells us, does this feel good or doesn't it? Am I
Good.
happy right now or am I not? Am I aligned? Do I feel like I am on my path right now, or do I feel like I am like a fish out of water right now? These are all indications leading us toward what's really going to be our definition of joy, meaning, success, whatever words you want to put on that.
I've
And
been
it's different
struck
for
and
everybody.
blessed just now with a powerful question that I don't think most people will ever ask you. And I think it's one of the secrets to unlocking a lot of truth. So
Okay.
you mentioned moving towards more of that, right? More of that substance. And you
Mhm.
also mentioned people right after that. And I think that's imperatively close together because we often want to move more towards something. And then we've got people in our lives who often block us from getting access to more of that, whether it's because they need our time more, whether it's because they need our attention more, or because they don't want us to go down that path, right? Sometimes that happens. Now,
Yes.
here you were, let me take this up a notch before I ask the question, which
Okay.
is here you were surrounding yourself with a multitude of people. You weren't a hermit. You
No.
weren't a stay-at-home mom that never talked to anybody and felt really isolated and boxed in. You had lots of people. You mentioned a church, you mentioned a counseling center, you mentioned your kids. You probably had moms groups
Yep.
and
Oh,
areas
yeah.
to go to just
All
connect,
of it.
connect, connect. Yet
Mhm.
you found yourself making a shift towards more of who you are because you were depleting. What I heard was you were depleting
Mhm.
yourself by giving so much to
Mhm.
others, but you were forgetting to give to yourself. So my question for you is, how did you recognize that you were losing yourself, and how did you make a transition towards people who empower you to find you?
Oh, those are great questions. Okay, I forgot the first one
That's
already.
okay. Let's go to the second
How
one,
did
which was
I how did I
how did you, and let's just go to the second one. That's really what I want to get to was how
okay.
did you get to those people who
Mm,
empowered you to be you?
mm, yeah. Well, I went on a search. I went on a search for, what are I love to read these kinds of books. I find these kind of speakers motivating. I find these kind of classes interesting. I find, and I thought, well, who else is reading this stuff? Who else is attending this stuff? Who else believes this stuff? So I started attending like personal development workshops, author, uh, platforms. I started, going where other people were searching for the same thing I was, and who were learning the same things or may be aligned in the same way with what we were learning. And so I started to be surrounded by people who really believed in uplifting people, encouraging people, helping people tap into the best of themselves, who offered grace to themselves and other people, when we're being human and falling down a bit and needing to pick ourselves back up. And that gave me strength to be more honest about who I really wanted to be and how I needed to really show up for myself like I was showing up for everybody else. Um,
How did you recognize that turning point? Was there a moment, and you may have to journal this, but if you happen to have it top of mind, how did you recognize that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, maybe it's usually, I found that when I go through those experiences, I usually have like not a doubt, but an inkling more so of like, you know what, have I been living for others and not for myself? Like, it's not necessarily this bold, like, oh, duh, I should just turn and like help myself, Is there a moment like that that occurred, or was there a big experience that helped you shift? What did the shift
There
look like?
were a couple of little moments that were huge for me, and they may sound so silly, but that's when I really knew, oh, I have got to turn the corner here. So imagine, my outside life, my public life, running the counseling center, coaching the volleyball team, being the Girl Scout leader,
Mhm.
being the homeschool mom for both kids, a wide circle of family friends, big lay ministry in the church, all very confident, on top of my game. I know what I'm doing. I'm a leader. I've got it. I've got this. I've got all this, right?
Mm,
Um, then I go home, and my husband at the time, I'm no longer married to this man, and he's not a bad guy, but he was
sure.
very controlling. That was one of his things. And I remember one morning I got dressed for work, and he'd done this several times. He'd said, your hair doesn't look right. You need to fix it. Oh, why are you wearing that dress? Whatever, criticizing something about my physical appearance before I would leave to go to work. And one morning I didn't push back, and I went into the closet and I changed my clothes. And then he left for work, and the kids got the kids to school. And I thought, I have so lost myself that I even didn't just keep the clothes on that I chose for the day. Like, what is wrong with me that I thought I had to change my clothes just because my husband thought I needed to change my clothes? So that was one moment I knew, oh my gosh, you are in serious trouble, Cindy. If you can't even decide for yourself and stick to your decision about what you're going to wear to work today. I mean, it wasn't inappropriate. There was nothing wrong with what I was wearing. Okay. And then the other time I realized I was disappearing in my own life, the kids got in the car, my car for the 100th time, in
Right.
their life or whatever. And I had the radio on, a station I like to listen to. And my daughter immediately changed the channel to music they like to listen to. And I'd let them do that all their lives. And I hadn't even pulled out of the driveway yet when she did it again. And I was like, I thought, in my head, I thought, but I wanted to listen to my music. And then I thought, Cindy, you are in charge of your life. So I told my kids, I said, change the channel back. I am a person. I remember yelling at them. I am a person. I have preferences, and I wanted to hear my radio station. It's my car. Change the channel back. So I mean, I overreacted,
Sure.
but it was a statement to myself of, you have got to get your life back, woman. So
And you're honest about it. Thank you. My goodness, the amount of people who will not admit that they've yelled at their children or that they've messed up as a parent, but that also have are not taking control. There's so many elements of what you said where I'm like, thank you. Like human being to human being, like a leader who doesn't have to act like they're perfect. That's perfect. That's
I'm the
awesome.
girl next door who knows a lot, Jackson. That's
Oh
what
my goodness. And so you said that these ideas, to some they may sound silly, but I think to millions this resonates. I think we've all been on one side of that equation, if not on both sides in our relationships, especially in both those scenarios, right?
Wow.
I'll own my awful side
Mm,
on the husband side of the clothing situation. Man, I did
mm.
not like the color yellow.
Oh,
Like
no.
the dark color, to me, it looked like puke. I'm not a big fan, and I don't think
Not a big
I.
fan of puke, are you, Jackson?
Oh, no way, man, no way. This yellow's fine. I'm okay with this one.
Oh,
It was that
oh,
like
okay.
goldish yellow, and so
Highlighter, okay.
man, so I don't. And from my perspective, right, the men's side, I wasn't trying to control the scenario. I wasn't saying, hey, your clothes, like you have to go change. But I
Mhm.
bet what I said came across that way.
Yeah, maybe.
I
Who
bet it did.
knows?
And we don't. I think most people have great intentions, But we also, as adults, have to learn to communicate in a way that's respectful, in a way that creates
Mhm.
space and liberates people and allows people to make their own decisions. And I did a really piss poor job of that in my first
Mhm.
marriage. I certainly had my struggles in my second marriage with that too. The language barrier didn't help. But
Mhm.
it is still, it's so important that we ourselves like find our abilities
Mhm.
to overcome those scenarios. I've been in that too.
Absolutely.
As a kid, I went through that. With parents making fun of, or friends making fun of what you wear or whatever else. Like
Yeah.
there's so many people that go through that in so many levels. And, some people call it releasing the inner child, right? Going back to
Mhm.
your innocent state of finding yourself. And again, the midlife crisis is often the one that leads us to be a little bit more open to that, I think.
Mhm.
Again, I'm not there yet, but that's kind of what I see from the outside perspective is like you're tired of the pain that
Mhm.
continues to stack in life, and it's
Yeah.
almost like intolerable. And so you start to have to make a shift. But I didn't directly ask you what powerful lesson can other visionaries learn from your experience. I kind of like some lumped these in together. Is there
Mhm.
another powerful lesson you want to dive into?
Yes, thank you for this moment because one of the biggest parts of my turning point was talking to Jack Canfield. Actually, I was at one of his trainings and I got the great fortune of being in a small group experience with him, and he was sitting right next to me. And we were to go around the room and talk about, kind of what our vision for our lives was, what we wanted, and what was blocking us, what we felt was getting in our way. And when it was my turn, I said, I blamed my husband for everything. Well, he doesn't want me to be an entrepreneur, and he doesn't let me da 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 da, and he's so short-sighted that he can't. I mean, I was in the blame complain space, total blame complain space. And
Yeah.
Jack turned to me and looked at me and he said, Cindy, it is your job to live your life.
Hmm.
And that was like the clouds split open, moment for me, because what I understood was, and where I go now in my own life and where I encourage all of you to go, is to ask yourself, if you're unhappy, especially, like, what would your life be like if you stepped into 100% responsibility for it? You took full responsibility for your life, because anytime we're pointing our finger at other people, like I was, whether it's your spouse, whether it's the boss you can't stand, whether it's the political, whatever's going on, politically with the president or the country, or whether it's the economy or the weather, whatever you're trying to blame because your life isn't great, it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your energy, because you can't control the weather. You can't control the president. You can't control whatever, the husband, the
Right.
spouse,
Anything outside of yourself.
nothing. This is
Anything.
where we have the power, right here in our own thoughts, our behaviors, our feelings, our actions. That's where we can make a difference. So start there, step fully into it. And I think the first step is something you were referring to in your own life, Jackson, was just, I call it waking up. I
Hmm.
call it just waking up and going, oh, I am doing this. I am involved in this pattern of my behavior and it's not working. Even my good intentions are causing damage. Even if my intentions are great, they're causing damage. Or where am I off path from who I really am, which is fully love, right? We're all fully love, really. So anytime we're judging
Right.
or you know just speaking out of turn, or telling somebody else how to live their lives, or whatever we might be doing, we are off path. And
Yes.
so, yeah, if people don't hear another word from me, I want them to hear what I heard Jack say, which was, Cindy, step into full responsibility for yourself, and your life will turn around. And it did. He was right. It
That
works. I
is
promise it works.
awesome. And it is a universal principle
100%.
that he
Yes.
was a vessel for. And the wisdom has existed, but it's so cool that you got to hear that from him, where you knew that the resource, you knew that the source of knowledge in this occasion was living, what he teaches.
Mhm.
So that's so cool. And I want to come back to this quote now because of that. You said, show up for
Mhm.
yourself like you show up for others. Right. And
Yes.
there's, go ahead, hit it. How do we do that?
Sorry, I'm all excited, but yes,
Oh yeah, no, the flow state right now is awesome with this interview. I'm loving it. I've got 3 sets of chills already in the last 30 minutes.
well, often, especially with women, I find in midlife is they know how to love and nurture well, right? They know how to love other people. They know
They
how to
do. They're here. That's just not even mince words. They're here. We're trying to figure it out.
it's not a man versus woman. I'm not trying to say men don't know, but I really do feel there is a nurturing, caring, loving presence in many women. It comes naturally to them. Oh, how can I help out my family? How can I help out that friend that's got cancer? How can I help that homeless person or that person experiencing homeless on the street? And we know how to do that instinctively. There's something there.
I agree.
And yet we also are, I think, the gender that struggles the most with turning it toward ourselves.
Yes.
Like, it's so interesting. Like, I rarely hear men feel guilty, for example, for taking time out for themselves. And I don't think they ought to feel guilty for taking time out.
I agree with you. There are the men who grew up with 5 older sisters and a mom who learned these paradigms a little differently. But you're right. I feel far less guilty than my mom and my 5 sisters, and other women do. And the guys, my guy friends growing up, like, oblivious, completely over their head.
Well, I mean, if I think if a guy wants to watch the game on Saturday, he's going to make sure he can, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But if a woman wants to watch a show on Friday night, she's thinking, well, what does everybody else want to watch? Or am I supposed to be getting something ready for the kids for tomorrow?
Multitasking while doing it.
You got to go through the laundry list and ask if it's okay with everyone first. If you dominate the remote. I mean, it's just amazing how often I see that. And so, one of the things I find myself teaching women especially is how to love themselves unapologetically, like truly love themselves. And this isn't against anyone, it's for her. Because as the cup fills up and overflows, there's more to give and flow out to others, actually. So we show up better for others when we show up for ourselves. Truly, truly we do.
I love that. And so with that said, 30 seconds, what's your vision for those that you serve?
Well, I really want people to learn how to love themselves unapologetically, as I just said, and then also build unwavering confidence, because, you cannot create a life you really want if you do not have confidence. So we got to build those confidence muscles up so people are willing to try new things, teach something new, try something new. And I want to help people get crystal clear about what they really want, because you cannot get what you do not know you want either. So helping them get crystal clear about what they want, again, what their definition is for success, happiness, joy, meaning, and then build up that confidence so they can take the steps to get there. So
beyond the business model, which I know wouldn't be your answer, but for those who are listening, why is that important to you? That you help people find this unapologetic love for themselves and build unwavering confidence.
Well, I mean, I could get really, 10-layer philosophical about this, but I really do want world peace, Jackson. And so if I don't love myself, we're not going to get there. Right.
Do the wave.
Really, it's important to me because, I think we're all called to do different things. And I can see in the trajectory of my life where I have been given experiences that have taught me some of these lessons. And I think when we are given information, when we are allowed experience and wisdom to come in whatever form, and we know it serves well, that it's our imperative to share it. And so it's important to me to share it because I feel like I've been blessed to be given some of these teachings and knowings about life. And it's important because I feel like we are here to create freedom, growth, and joy for the world, ourselves and each other. And this is my way of doing that, contributing to society, I guess you would say, to get us to a point where we really, we really can love each other and accept one another and create a great world. Honestly, as cheesy as I might sound,
I don't think it sounds
that
cheesy.
really means
What
a
I
lot
live
to
for.
me to do that.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. And so a spin on that question, why do you care? I know it seems obvious, the obvious end, well,
Mhm.
like, world peace makes everybody happy. I get that.
Mhm.
There's that aspect that people can depreciate, but why do you care?
Why do I
Why,
care?
yeah.
I don't know how not to care. I mean, I just love people so much, and I love and appreciate life so much. And it breaks my heart that so many people are missing out on their own lives and that they're just suffering, suffering, suffering. I know there are a lot of schools of thought and religious teachings and all kinds of beliefs out there that say, oh, we just suffer through the human experience. And then there's this great, glorious other thing, later or whatever. And the earthly life is just one challenge after another. And it's, just get through that. And then when you get to the other side, you'll be okay. I
Sure.
mean, I understand there's a lot of that out there.
Right.
And, I'm not trying to make anybody wrong, but it is
Sure.
my belief in knowing that we can enjoy life here. And that doesn't mean we're bad people if we have a good time while we're here.
Right.
And so I just, I really would love to see people not take life so seriously and, give themselves forgiveness when they fall short of what they're, capable of, because we all do that. And to just let themselves enjoy themselves, just do what they want to do. Most things that people want to do are not destructive to other people.
Hmm.
I mean, if someone came to me and said, oh, what I want to do, is obliterate this whole group of people, I wouldn't say, oh, you should go do that if you think that's going to bring you joy. But nothing true joy doesn't come from that. It only
I think
comes
that's the key, though. I think,
from
I
right.
would look at that from a slightly different angle of,
Mhm.
I think what you said is true. What most people want, like what you want to do, yes. When you look at what you truly want,
Yeah. What
but
you
I think a lot of people
want.
have a hard time getting distracted by basic wants. I'm hungry, so I want a Snickers bar. No, your body wants nutrients.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
sometimes we're so habitually connected to, Netflix, alcohol, drugs, pornography,
Yes.
whatever else
Mhm.
it is, that becomes that instant want that we end up accidentally sacrificing things that we truly need, which is what you're
Yes.
talking about. Those wants that aren't the oppressive needs from outside forces, but the internal needs. And I think a lot of
Yes.
people are kind of distracted by that, but that's also why I think the midlife makeover methods exist. And what you teach and how you help people
Mhm.
start to come into tune with, like, what is it that I'm truly looking for here, and that's why they need that type of guidance. If you haven't already gone to Cindy's website, and you should, if you're in this position where you're looking for somebody to perhaps help, you go through a midlife makeover, or if you're at a earlier stage of that, but you recognize that she may be able to help you find greater happiness, and greater confidence in what you do, then cindywhitmer.com is a great place to go. There's a link to download a free ebook on there to get started and understand more about what she's putting out into the world and how she's helping people. This The other thing I wanted to ask you about was, do you have in-person events, one-on-one consultations, group sessions? Where would you guide people to next?
Yeah, you can go to cindydwhitmer.com and see what I offer. Right now, I have private coaching going on, one-on-one coaching that is on the phone or on Zoom, so you can be anywhere,
Mhm.
and we can do that kind of work together. from time to time, I start group coaching experiences and go through, a 90-day group coaching experience. So I will probably do one of those this fall. So if you're interested, you can email me, let me know. And I'll get you on a waiting list for that. I also am a speaker. So if your business or organization or association or whatever needs a speaker or some kind of training on these ideas or leadership or things like that, then please, let me know about that. And if I can serve you in that way, I'm happy to do that. So everything's there at cindydwhitmer.com. And yeah, be happy to hear from anyone that feels they're ready for another step. If you want a deep dive, really deep dive, and you're ready, then we should have a conversation for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's wise. Get in touch with leaders like Cindy. Explore the process so that you're not, wandering down the side streets and alleys. When you could have somebody, take you right through the jungle or
Yes.
through the busy, crazy city of life
Yeah.
to those destinations of hope and joy. And I would agree with you 100% on the fact that many of us are blessed with the opportunity to pursue joy in
Mhm.
this life and to pursue
Mhm.
happiness. While it's in my opinion, it's not something we're entitled to. It's not something that we're guaranteed. There are formulas, that if we can learn the formulas and the framework and we happen to have those right connections in our life, or we foster those right connections, by reaching
Mhm.
out, then we can find ourselves accessing those types of experiences, and it's
Mhm.
not something that's forbidden. It's
Mhm.
something that is encouraged. Your soul typically wants
Mhm.
that. So
Yes.
I'm going to circle back a little bit. So there's people out there who, um, you know, may feel a bit hopeless. They may feel a bit stuck with where they're at.
Yes.
And so naturally, if you feel stuck, hope is not something, that you're very, very fond of.
Yes.
You tend to be like, go away.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
do you tend to work with more people? Do you have a resource you'd refer people to beyond a hotline that are closer to that darker stage of hopelessness,
Mhm.
like a book or something? And do you tend to gravitate towards helping people who are more ready towards maximizing happiness in their life and truly unlocking it? Does that make sense? That question?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like you're talking about, kind of an extreme where some people are so stuck, they feel hopeless, they feel helpless, they don't know which way is up or down and are
Mhm.
really stuck and don't know where to turn. And then there's people who seek out coaching for just, they're going along in life. They're doing okay, but they just want to up their game. So coaching is appropriate for both of those. My work is appropriate for both of those scenarios. But if someone's just out there right now and listening to us and they're sitting there just hopeless, feeling helpless, stuck, then I want to say to them, you're not alone. Most people have been there or some are there with you. You just don't know it. And if you cannot see any hope right now as you look at today or next week, then one of the first things I would ask you to do is think back to a time you felt really happy or you felt really good. Something really felt meaningful to you or felt like a success. Just something that felt good to you. Maybe you were a really good student when you were in high school. Maybe, you're a great friend. Maybe you took this amazing trip in, 2010 and you just had such a great time and went to several countries or, whatever, but tap into some very positive memories and or other seasons in your life that were very difficult that you have survived. Because no matter how hopeless you feel today, whether you're 25 or 55 or 75, you have survived stuff somehow. So you had strengths, you had knowings, you had support, you had something that got you through some dark times before. So either call on those positive memories from the past and recognize your strengths and your qualities and things that mattered to you then and what parts of yourself you really loved about yourself at that time that's still in there. You're just feeling a little disconnected right now. Or look back at what you've been through before and survived, and let that empower you to go, I've gotten through dark times before. Here's what I can access within myself to help pull myself out of this. I know, who do you know for sure loves you or cares for you? Be willing to be vulnerable. Really what we all want, according to Brene Brown, who's another great resource, I got to tell you. If you don't know who Brene Brown is and you really want to move the needle in your life, check all of her work out. But she talks about vulnerability and the importance of it. She has the most popular TED Talk, I think, in the world, or one of the top 3 or something, about vulnerability and our deep desire, all of us, to have connection and belonging. And if you're feeling hopeless, that's what you're needing. You're hungry to really connect to someone, another human being, about real life, and you're wanting to belong. And so start that. Where did you feel you belonged before? Where, when have you felt connected to people? What really, if there's anything at all that, you feel attracted to or excited about, that's a clue. Go start leaning into that direction and see what unfolds.
I love it. And I love your passion for teaching and opening that light to people up. Thank you so much, Cindy. I'm going to recap a little bit of that right now. So visionary entrepreneurs who are listening, Cindy's talking about improving your mindset, which you've often probably heard is one of the most important things that you can do. It's really one of the greatest secrets to sustainable revenue growth and building what you want to build. Some people also call it removing the head trash, right? And you've got both aspects. It's removing the negative. It's replacing it, though, too, with the positive, and creating improvements that then offset and make it impossible for the negative to come back on that bookshelf. While our minds are expansive and ever growing at the same time, it is very hard to make place for the negativity when you've expanded the positivity on the shelves within your brain. So Cindy, thank you for all the incredible value that you threw down today. Vision Pros, have a fantastic week, and we look forward to seeing you on the other side. Don't hesitate to connect with Cindy via email or the other social links available, and we would love to see you subscribe, write reviews, and share Vision Pros. We appreciate you so much. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. We optimize them as the months go by. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for